I thought we might spend some time talking about why so many people find the Bible a rather tough book to read and understand. So I wonder how many of us identify with this email that I got a couple years ago from my cousin Brad. He writes, "One of my New Year's resolutions is to become more familiar with the Bible. It's been on my list for a while, and I even tried to read it straight through a couple of years ago. But shortly after Exodus, I got lost in the weeds and I stopped." First of all, hooray to Brad and to all of you who may have opened up the front cover of your Bible to Genesis and read, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." That very act is huge. You visiting this YouTube channel is huge because it points to something that's stirring within you for you to incline your ear, as the Bible might say, to learn more about this ancient text and about God who inspired it. But kudos to Brad for reading his way through Genesis and that dysfunctional group of people, where we find brother killing brother already by chapter 4, and 12 chapters later, Abraham's wife Sarah is sending her rival Hagar into the desert to die. I'm telling you, reality TV, it's got nothing on this story. And then you reach Exodus, where God and Charlton Heston deliver the Israelites from Egyptian slavery through mighty deeds. But Exodus also contains chapters and chapters about how to build an ancient worship tent. I'm not kidding. Lots and lots and lots of chapters about the worship tent and the priests who function there. And then there are other laws particularly relevant to us, like what should happen when you give me your donkey to care for, but it dies while no one is looking. I'm not saying these things are unimportant, and they were incredibly important if you were the folks in charge of building the worship tent, or the one watching the donkey. They just make for some difficult reading for those of us trying to do it today. So let's recognize that there are some hurdles to our understanding the Bible text that we read. Things like its authors are thousands of years removed from us. They come from the ancient Near Eastern Mediterranean world. They're exclusivist and they're tribal, and they use a language totally different from our own. And their customs involve things like animal sacrifice and lots of other strange stuff. But set all that aside for now. Part of the reason people don't get too far with the Bible is simply because of its format. If I flip through the pages of my just plain Bible, the one without any of my study notes, all I see is just words and words and white spaces. Part of what makes understanding the Bible tough is that many of these words are describing things that we're used to seeing in other ways. Like, if I want to know how my household money gets spent, I want to see a chart. When we want to put together our IKEA desk, we'd like some pictures, please. It's just not as helpful for someone to use only words to share these kinds of ideas. And if I haven't convinced you yet, let me give you one more example to make my point clear. Commence at the northeast corner of the east half of the west half of northeast quarter of southwest quarter of section 17, township 1 north, range 12 west, and run south 0 degrees, blah, blah, blah. That's a property description, everybody. And wouldn't it be easier to just see something like this? Well, the Bible is like that at times. Pages and pages of all kinds of different information conveyed in words. In fact, 1,076 pages of them in the Bible I have in front of me. Now, words are fantastic, don't get me wrong, when you're telling a story or reciting a poem or even delivering a lecture. But maybe they're not so good when you're trying to communicate other kinds of material. So let's take this idea out for a spin. Here are some different ways of presenting information. Now I'm going to read out some passages from the Bible, and I'd like you to choose which of the pictures the text is describing. You ready? Here we go. We're going to start in Numbers 34, verses 3 through 5. It says, "Your southern side will include some of the desert of Zin along the border of Edom. On the east, your southern boundary will start from the end of the Salt Sea, cross south of Scorpion Pass, continue on to Zin, and go south of Kadesh Barnea." So which one of these images best captures what I just read? If you pick this one, you're spot on. Numbers 34 is conveying information we're used to seeing as a map. Let's try another. Exodus chapter 20, verses 12 through 17. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, nor the neighbor's wife, nor his maidservant or manservant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. This portion of text might be familiar to some as a few of the 10 Commandments, so the Little League rulebook would be most similar. Israelites are to follow the 10 Commandments, and baseball players are to follow the rules of baseball, and all will proceed swimmingly. Or so we hope. Pressing onward, 1 Kings chapter 6, 2 through 6. The temple that King Solomon built for the Lord was 60 cubits long, 20 wide, and 30 high. The portico at the front of the main hall of the temple extended the width of the temple, that is 20 cubits, and projected 10 cubits from the front of the temple. He made narrow clerestory windows in the temple. I don't know about you, but when I hear this, I have the intense need to grab a pencil, a ruler, and a blank sheet of paper to figure out just what the heck they're saying, because they're describing a blueprint. We need to see these measurements and rooms drawn out on paper in relation to each other for this to make any kind of sense to us. And lastly, let's look at Matthew chapter 1, verses 1 through 6. It reads, "This is the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers. Judah was the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar. Perez was the father of Hezron, Hezron the father of Ram, Ram the father of Amminadab, Amminadab the father of Nahshon, Nahshon the father of Salmon, Salmon was the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab. Boaz was the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth, Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David." Now, even if it wasn't just the remaining image, I think you could identify what I just read as a family tree. The word the Bible uses for a family tree is genealogy. So I hope that I've demonstrated that part of the reason people get discouraged and intimidated when they open up their Bible is simply its word-only format. That's because we'd rather just see a map than a wordy description of boundary lines. So if you can recognize when you've encountered words describing a map, just like the Numbers 34 passage that we read, don't get discouraged. Don't give up. Remember that you have the internet and you can pull up a map. In the next part, part 2 of It's Not Easy, we're going to take a closer look at each of these 4 different presentations of information on your screen to show you that even though the texts behind each one of these might be difficult for us to work through, their words are absolutely vital to the biblical story. So it's worth our time to try and figure out how to approach and understand them. Hope to see you back here. So thanks for coming along on this short journey into the Bible text. I hope you've noticed something new in the landscape, or maybe even a fresh way to view territory that you've covered many times before. Whatever the case, it's good to have you along for the trip. You never know what we might discover as we crack open this fascinating text together.